dear friends. Thank you very much for joining me today. This is Mark Your Day. We will be talking politics today, and if you want to join the discussion on how we can improve the political system in our country, how we can avoid some of the recurring issues, stick around. I'd like to greet our sukis, our regulars, Kuya Mel Chan. Good morning, Kuya Mel Chan. Good morning. And also Kuya James Bayeta from Surigao. Good morning to my dear friends. Thank you for always sticking around and joining me here on Mark Your Day. Let's improve the fade level a bit. Okay, let's check that a bit. Okay, there you go. So, what will we talk about today? We'll talk about politics. I have been in discussion with my wife, Trisha, my dad, about some of the problems in the Philippines and how we can correct them and improve them. Because I have been involved in government for some time and my legal training, and I was also exposed to some political systems abroad, I thought of sharing with you my thoughts on how we can improve things in our country. Good morning as well to Kuya Gilbert Lazaro, Tito Vlogs. Good morning, Kuya Gil and Tita Mitzi. Yaya Go, Tita Mitzi. Thank you very much for joining. Like I said, mahalaga po ang political system ng bansa because some of the problems have been recurring. But let's begin with this word of encouragement. Trust in the Lord with all your heart and lean not on your own understanding. In all your ways, submit to Him, and He will make your paths straight. Good morning to the Tagaros of Osamis and Tags team. Let's trust in the Lord while we do what we need to do here in our country. Let's trust the Lord and depend on Him while we're daily trying to be excellent in everything that we do. So today I have prepared with you something you might find really interesting because this country has so much potential. Everyone knows that. But somehow we can't pull ourselves together and build a country that will benefit the Filipinos and become a blessing to the global community. If we have one of the highest reserves of mineral deposits of gold and nickel and copper, if we have some of the most rich oceans on the planet, if we have flora and fauna in our forests that are one of the most diverse, what are we doing wrong? Why can't we build this country to become a truly pearl of the Orient Seas, to be truly a blessed nation? Pag-uusapan po natin yan sa umagang ito. So if you want to join in the discussion, my friends, please invite your friends over. You can start a watch party. This is a prelude to what I plan to do, which is to write an article on our political system, to write an essay on our political system and what I believe are fundamental problems that should be resolved systemically. Kasi laging sinasabi ang problema ang tao. Yes, problema nga ang tao, pero kahit na anong tao ang ilagay mo dyan, kung yung sistema hindi maayos, magiging corrupt pa rin, magiging inferior pa rin, magiging mediocre pa rin. Pero pag sinabing bulok ang sistema, anong mali sa sistema? Pag sinabing may problema tayo sa ating bansa, kailangan natin itong i-improve. Ano ang problema natin sa ating bansa? Ano ang kailangan nating i-improve? Yun ang pag-uusapan natin sa umagang ito. And to my youngest suki, Lila Tagaro. Good morning, Lila girl. I hope you listen to Uncle Ian and become a smart girl when you grow up. Okay? So, if the system is the problem, what is wrong with the system? And how do we fix it? This is going to be quite ambitious of me to talk to you about the political system in the Philippines and how to improve things, but I will give it a shot. Ito mo si Trisha, ang lamig-lamig na nga sa Pilipinas. May ice pa rin yung aking yelo. Ay, yung aking tubig. Wala daw ice yung yelo. Yung tubig daw yung ice. Okay? So, punta muna tayo sa mga balita. Let's check the news first before we go into a discussion about what I promised to talk about today. Let's check the news first. Okay, what's in the news, my friends? It's very important for us to be updated. So let's begin, as always, with checking what's our COVID-19 update. 4,000 cases in mostly NCR, Laguna, Rizal, Cavite. Cebu is back on that list of top provinces with COVID cases with 200 plus cases, but if you total the number of cases in NCR, 2,400, Laguna 300 plus, Rizal 100 plus, and Cavite 100 plus, that's already over 3,000. And then Cebu 3,200 something. So you spread the rest of the 700 for all the provinces in the Philippines. Good morning, Tita Jeje Quizon of Q-Rated. If you want nice furniture and nice decor for your home, please visit the Instagram account of Q-Rated of Tita Jeje Quizon. That's our dear friend there, Tita Jeje Quizon. Okay? So yan po yung update natin sa COVID cases. What's worrying me? So, mataas pa rin yung mild. Pero yung tumataas yung critical. If you check the critical cases, medyo tumataas. So, I'm hoping that they could find a way to manage these cases better so we could keep our mortality rate low. Okay? So, yun yung ating dapat ipagdasal. Nice naman ang mga doktor natin at patuloy na nagsisilbi. Let's continue to pray for them. Headlines from the Manila Bulletin. We're choosing Manila Bulletin today because the Manila Standard has not updated their website. I don't know, baka nag-absent yung taga-update ng website. So, Manila Bulletin headline, hold off school opening. Local executives urge DepEd. This is according to ULAP. That's the Union of Local Authorities of the Philippines. And their president is Dax Kua or Dakila Kua of, I think, the province of Aurora, if I'm not mistaken. Forgive me for missing that detail. According to the governor, they are supportive of DepEd, but they are urging DepEd to reconsider school opening until systems have been put in place or we could somehow ensure the safety of our children when they go to school. According to this news article, the governor is concerned that if a case spreads in the school, mahihirapan po yung mga communities to manage them. At pag nagkahawaan po sa mga estudyante sa mga eskwelahan, mahirap pong i-contain yon. At lalo at nabdala nila sa kanilang respective communities, that will be a really sad development if we spread the COVID further because we have opened the schools without observing the necessary precautions to prevent such spread. But according to the governor, Kua, the president of ULAP, they are supportive of DepEd, and I'm sure DepEd is aware of the risks and they are doing whatever they could and they're doing their best to make sure that our children will be safe when they do go back to school, when the school starts operating again. Okay? So sana po magawa ng paraan ng DepEd yung school precautions dahil kapag nagkahawaan yung mga bata, napakalungkot kung yung ating mga kids ang mahahawaan ng COVID-19. How's the sound of my mic today? Is it loud and clear? Is it clear on your end? Good morning, Uncle Henry Dowd. Can you greet Boogie and wish him well? He is in the hospital for treatment previous operation. Yes, I would like to greet my dearest friend Boogie Amahit or Bogs Amahit. He's the coach of the Philippine badminton team. He is fighting cancer. This is one of his biggest fights. So we have all our prayers for him. I have been praying for him for weeks now. And I pray that he would be strong enough to resist this and survive this problem. Not COVID related, yes, according to Uncle Henry, but it's a much tougher fight for Bogs. He has always been the strongest in our team growing up, always the fastest, and I hope Bogs can hurdle this big problem now that he is facing. Praying for you, Bogs. Alright, according to Kuya Mel Chan, sound is loud and clear. Good morning, Kuya Glenn. Jude Rufino. Dax Chua is from Quirino. Thank you for providing that detail, Kuya Glenn Rufino. Kuya Glenn is a financial advisor and he also deals on cars. So if you need very nice cars, you can contact Kuya Glenn Rufino there. And if you need also advice on your financial investments and financial security, you may also call and message Kuya Glenn Rufino there. I'm so happy with the list of people in my Facebook and social media. They come from many different sectors and they have been excellent in what they do, and I am so happy to be called their friend. So that's Kuya Glenn Rufino for you. Let's move on. Let's check the headline from the Philippine Star. Philippine Star, PhilHealth suspends IRM implementation. This is the interim reimbursement mechanism of PhilHealth where they advance reimbursement. I'm not really aware of the details of how it's disbursed or how it's collected, but it's disbursed to hospitals supposedly to fight COVID or to give them liquidity. That's the term used, meaning they have cash to use if they need to purchase things or pay certain professionals. They should be able to access funds. So that was the intent of PhilHealth in coming up with that IRM. But unfortunately, it's been somehow suspected of being the source of massive corruption there. So they're suspending it in the meantime. What is striking in this news article? What struck me in this news article is the suggestion from the brilliant Congressman Kimbo of Marikina. Congressman Stella Kimbo has been a top economist for many years, multi-awarded lady, very brilliant, the wife of former Congressman Miro Kimbo. She is suggesting to privatize PhilHealth. If government cannot manage PhilHealth, or at least the fund management of PhilHealth, they should privatize that because there are Filipinos who are more capable of managing the finances of PhilHealth and the affairs of PhilHealth rather than rely on political appointees to do that. So that's a good suggestion to my mind. Privatization is not always the solution. Privatization is an option for some of these highly technical, highly evolving functions of government that are best left to people who are in that particular field and who have the incentive, because it's privatized, to do it well. Okay, so let's bring down my headphones a bit like that. Okay, what's the headline coming from? This time the Philippine Daily Inquirer. Okay, let's take that down. Philippine Star. Let's move on to Philippine Daily Inquirer. It's actually the same. Suspend payments of COVID-19, and this one details more details on how it has been abused. So this one not only tells us about the move to suspend payments, but really to preventively suspend. Senators have been suggesting to preventively suspend the officials of of DepEd, of DepEd, not DepEd, the officials of PhilHealth. Why did I say DepEd? The officials of PhilHealth, because according to this news article, there's a possibility that the investigation could be rigged and some documents could be tampered with if we don't suspend the officials of PhilHealth. So that's the suggestion coming from that news article. Okay, so I'm excited to share with you my thoughts on how do we improve the political system in the Philippines. If you want your friends to join in, this is a good time for you to start that watch party or share it with your friends. Let's talk about how do we improve the political system in the Philippines, okay? Let's go to our next segment. Let me begin by asking you this, and if you have access to your keyboards, I would appreciate if you would answer, share your thoughts in the chat area, comment section there. If I have to ask you, what's the biggest problem with our political system? Sige nga, let me pick your brains. Good morning, Kuya Art Tabu from Tuguegarao City. Magandang umaga po. If you want the best pasalubong delicacies, please go to Lighthouse Cooperative from Tuguegarao City, and my Kuya Art Tabu there is the head of that cooperative. Thank you very much for watching. Hi to all our friends and churchmates from Tuguegarao. Oh, I got a news coming from, this is the most important news of the day. I did not read it there in the opening session, but let me type down that news, okay? I'll need to type down that news because it's a very, very important news. Let me type it down. Hold it, my friends. Hold it, my friends. What is the news? What is the news? This is the news. Happy birthday, Mommy Emmy Salvador Feliciano. Not Salvador's. Salvador Feliciano. Okay. That's my mother-in-law. It's her birthday today. I would like to greet Mommy Emmy a happy, happy birthday. I cannot wish for a better mother-in-law. She's been supportive. She's been kind. She's been available. She's always there. She's consistent. She's healthy. She's charming. She's nice. She's generous. Happy, happy birthday, my dearest mother-in-law, Mommy Emmy Feliciano. Okay. So, good morning, everyone. So, are you ready for the discussion? I started my career in the academe. I was a teacher at the Ateneo de Davao, but after that stint, I immediately was invited to work in Manila in the office of former Senator Gloria Macapagal Arroyo. That brought me to Manila, and I was given access to the political field and had a front row seat in the affairs of the Philippine political scene around 1997-98. So that gave me a lot of insight and understanding of how the government works. When I went back to law school, I appreciated our constitutional and political laws and subjects and lessons better because I had access to that experience, or I had that experience, which informed my study of the law. So I was not studying the law out of a vacuum anymore when I went, because what happened was I was already in freshman law school, and then I took a leave of absence for a year and went to work in the Senate in Manila and worked in the political campaign of Gloria for a year. So when I had that opportunity, reading my law books became really exciting because I saw how the executive worked, I saw how the legislative worked, I saw how the election system worked, the electoral system worked, I saw how they crafted bills, So it gave life to the books that I was reading. So going through law school, I really enjoyed law school because it was real for me. I could imagine it. I could see how it should work in the Philippines. So today, I'd like to share with you some problems that I see in the Philippines that should be addressed. And that's causing many of these problems that we experience today. Okay? The first problem that I want to address is this. And I know you understand what I'm talking about. The first problem that I believe the Philippines needs to address systemically is the quality of its leaders. The quality of our political leaders seem to have deteriorated martial law onwards. So what happened martial law onwards that caused the seeming deterioration of the quality of senators, the quality of congressmen who get elected into office? What did we have before martial law that somehow ensured that the bar top-notchers were there, the great thinkers were there, the great advocates were there with great skill of communication and leadership and management had? So what did we have before that we no longer have today that's causing a decline in the quality of our leaders, both in the local government and in the national government? What we had today, and this is what we had before, and this is what I propose as a key step in helping reform our political system or improve our political system, is this. We need what you call accountability within our various departments. Okay? So ano ang aking proposal yung sa accountability? Ang hirap kasing maging accountable ang isang gobyerno kung napaka-powerful niya at wala nang pwedeng kumontra sa kanya. So what is my suggestion? My first suggestion, my friends, is this. I will type it down as I go along. We need, my friends, number one, to go back to a two-party system. We need to go back to a two-party system. If we don't go back to a two-party system, that's the reason why anyone can just run for office. Anyone can just form a political party as long as they're famous and they have funds. Now, if you're relying on fame and money, you don't produce a culture of or a system of meritocracy. Meaning, yung nahahalal at nagiging leader ng ating bansa ay yung taong merong merit or merong kakayahan. Now, what will the political two-party system create? Bago ka maging nominado ng for any political office, you need to go through the crucible or the test within the political party. Doon muna kayo magbabakbakan. Doon muna kayo magko-compete. Now, if there is competition within the political party, you're competing with people who are after the same thing and you're not just after swaying the voters. Kailangan mapabilib mo muna yung iyong mga colleagues doon sa political party bago kanila i-endorso. And that's the reason why people who were smarter, people who could communicate better, people who had leadership experience can somehow rise up the ranks in the political party system and become the nominee of that political party. Before the martial law, we had that two-party system. Now, kung meron kang dalawang major parties, magkakaroon din ng balance of power dun sa legislative at magkakaroon ng accountability doon sa legislative. Magkakaroon din ng accountability doon sa local government. kung meron tayong solusyon, hindi natin kailangan tanggalin talaga yung pwedeng mahirap na sabihin mong tanggalin yung anti-dynasties or anti-dynasty tayo. Sabihin mo na okay, wag na natin ipagbawal yung mga dynasty, yung mga anak ni governor. Ganito. Sige, hayaan mong tumakbo yan. But if you have a two-party system, it provides a check for the dynasties. It provides competition and people can now choose, do I still want this or I want this other party? If you also have a two-party system, magiging malinaw ano ba talagang pinapaniwalaan nitong grupong ito at anong pinapaniwalaan nitong grupong ito. Kasi hindi ka pwedeng maglumipat-lipat lang eh. Meron kang anti-turncoatism mechanism na hindi ka pwedeng maglipat-lipat ng partido whenever you want, which has been the problem for many years. Dito sa Pilipinas, ito. Nung si Cory, partido ni Cory. Lahat kaalyado ni Cory. Nung umupo si Ramos, lahat naging lakas NUCD. Nung naupo si Erap, lahat halos naging jeep ni Erap. Nung naupo si Gloria, lahat naman naging lakas kampi. Nung naupo si Noynoy, lahat naging Liberal Party. Ngayon at naupo si Duterte, lahat naging ano bang party ni Duterte ngayon? So ibig sabihin, yung hindi man define yung political ideology, hindi magkakaroon ng contrast yung approaches and system or yung kanilang mga strategiya kung paano papagandahin yung Pilipinas dahil lipatan ng lipatan at hindi malinaw kung ano talaga yung partido kasi ang nananaig ang personalities. So it's important that we have political parties na malinaw. Okay? So yes, to eliminate daw butterflies among elected officials. Yung two-party system ay ang aking pinapaniwalaan as a good mechanism to prevent or to improve the quality of our leaders both on the local and national level. Pero hindi pwedeng mag-stop doon sa two-party system lang. Ang pangalawang mekanismo that I believe is necessary to improve the quality of governance and leadership in the Philippines is, aside from the two-party system, government should fund those parties. Yung dalawang parties na yon, dapat pondohan yon ng gobyerno. Hindi pwedeng walang pondo. Kasi kung hindi pinondohan ng gobyerno yung dalawang partido na yon, ang mananaig pa rin ay yung maraming pera. So if the government funds the political party, then the political party will have a means to sustain itself and do their campaigns and will not be beholden to money. Will not be beholden to people with finances. So ibig sabihin, hindi lamang yung interest ng may pera ang mananaig. Bakit? Kasi the government supports these political parties. Yung kanilang national headquarters, merong pondo. Yung national headquarters naman ito, merong pondo. Merong seed money for their operations para kung anong minimum operations na para tumakbo itong mga political party ay nandoon na. Para we ensure na in all levels of our political system, meron kang option para sa ating mga kababayan. Again, pwede pa rin tumakbo kung sino-sino, pero kung at least meron kang dalawang malinaw na magkatunggaling partido in all levels of government, then there could be options for people. At hindi pwedeng maglipat-lipat. Okay? So one is a two-party system. Number two, the government should fund those parties because it is essential to make those parties independent of just moneyed interest or the interest of the moneyed people. Kasi kung pera ang nananaig, napakahirap pong maging leaders with integrity. Kasi kung compromised ka, dahil tumanggap ka ng pera dito, tumanggap ka ng pera doon, mahirap po yung ganon. Okay, imagine if you have, let's say, a small province with a dominant political leader there. Pero kung meron kang two-party system na may funds coming from government, at least yung minimum to sustain it, yung mga tao will have a place to go. Kung meron kang local leader, hindi mayaman, pero magaling, naging leader ng isang partido na yon, well, people can then align under that party and help that small, not very rich, but brilliant, good leader win the, for example, gubernatorial or the mayoralty elections in their area. Okay? So, yan yung una, two-party system. Hindi lang dapat two-party system, dapat may pondo. Before martial law, we had the liberal and the nacionalista. Now, I'm not saying this is going to be permanent. It could open to other smaller parties or minority parties later on. But in the meantime, at least until our voters mature and our political leaders mature, I would suggest that you allow them to fall under these parties where they will be forced to compete. They will be forced to go through internal party systems and somehow endorse the best among them, because if they don't endorse the best amongst them, tatalunin sila nung kabilang party. This will then solve the problem of lack of quality. This will then solve the problem of just not having any competition or option at all in our electoral processes. Walang kalaban. In many areas, walang kalaban, walang option. So paano ka magkakaroon ng kalidad kung wala kang option? At kung yung mga magagaling na mga leaders in our areas will not have the confidence to run for office, one, because they don't have the organization, wala silang partido, they also don't have the funds. So with this two-party system and government support or funds, government should fund those parties, then magkakaroon ka ng balance or balance of threat in those areas. Okay? Konting palakpak muna tayo. Palakpak tayo muna doon sa ating mga sumali ngayon. Good morning to Claire and the Gonzaga family from Surigao. Good morning also to JV from Misamis. All right. What's the third? What do I think should happen next? After you have your two-party system, what I would suggest next is really this one you've been hearing. And I have not made my statement about this recently, but I will tell you today that I support this. What do I support? I support, number 3, I believe this will help our Philippines, and I will explain why. I believe it's important for us to go federal. I believe federalism works because centralizing all authority and all power within the national capital region is just not healthy, because you cannot force unity within a naturally diverse country. We're naturally diverse in terms of culture, in terms of history. We're just naturally diverse in language. So you cannot force them to follow under one type of leadership. It's best for us to be federal and allow those federal states to bloom on their own, to manage their resources on their own, to enrich their own communities, and then have the dynamics of this state helping the other state and somehow creating that competition among states and creating also interdependence among states and support this state supporting the other states. What you may think as inferior, for example, the Bangsamoro area, if that turns into a state, ngayon, they're one of the poorest regions in the Philippines, if not the poorest region in the Philippines. But if they come together, recognized as an independent, as a separate, as their own state, not a separate, but as a federal state within the federal Philippines, you would be surprised how they could step up and make their state a really successful and vibrant state. They can forge deals directly with countries that could support them, maybe harvest the natural gas in the Liguacian Mars, maybe maximize the use of Lake Lanao and make it a productive lake. The northern Luzon state can also be a vibrant state that can begin trading with Taiwan, that could also produce goods that would be known all over the world. So if the northern Luzon states, the southern Luzon states, the NCR, the central Visayas, the western Visayas, southern Mindanao, whatever configuration, I believe it can work. Now, it may not happen. I'll tell you how I think it should flow. Because if you immediately jump, okay, why do I think that federalism will not work without the two-party system? I will explain later on. Okay? But I believe with a two-party system and a federal system where it's not centralized, ano ba yung nature ng federal? Ang federal state kasi, it recognizes greater autonomies within that state. It's parang you not just devolve, meron pa ring supervision ang national government. Ito, wala kang very minor supervision ang national government. Kung meron man, baka shared yung police, yung international relations, yung monetary, yung monetary policy ng ating buong federal Philippines. Posibleng yun yung part ng national or federal state authorities, but the rest of the authorities will be devolved and will be performed by the separate states. Hindi na makikialam yung iba. So thereby, allowing leaders from all over the countries to step up, maximize the resources, rally their people, and build those states. And if you can build those separate states, then you can build the whole. Do I support federalism? Yes. Is it going to break up the Philippines? I don't think so. Because according to many organizational development people, it's always form should follow function. Form should follow function. Not function should go to form. So anong ginagawa natin ngayon? Pinipilit natin na yung function itong really diverse nation natin, ipinipilit natin dito sa isang unitary form. Itong form natin ngayon. But we have never been that since ancient times. We have always been separate areas. The seven tribes of kingdoms of northern Luzon, the kingdoms of the southern Philippines, the kingdoms of the central Visayas, the kingdoms of NCR, the Mai kingdom of southern Luzon. It has always been that way. So that's the function. So why would you force a form on this particular function that is historically not accurate? So I believe the federal form, is more consistent with the historical structure and function and predilection or preference of the Filipinos in these areas. Okay? So yun yung pangalawa. Now, there's traction already in itong federalism. Ngayon ko lang sasabihin ang aking posisyon. So yan, I am supportive of federalism. Number 4, what do I think should follow next? What should follow next is a shift to the parliamentary system. I believe in the parliamentary system, and I believe that a parliamentary system, a unicameral parliamentary system, is better than a presidential system. Okay? Naniniwala ako na presidential bicameral system ang meron tayo ngayon. Meron tayong presidente, tapos meron tayong dalawang chambers, Senate and House, okay? So currently, we have a presidential bicameral system. What I would suggest is a unicameral parliamentary system. Ano po ang difference nun? Ang parliamentary system will be composed of MP or members of parliament voted from across these various states of the Philippines. They will sit in one chamber, and what's unique about the federal system is yung function ng executive and legislative is performed by that one parliament. Yung sa isang parliament lang yung paggawa ng mga batas at pag-implement at pag-oversee ng mga batas. At itong parliament na ito is led by a Prime Minister who is voted and elected among the parliamentarians among the members of parliament. Meron kang ibang mga hybrid na mga systems like the French system where they have the president still elected at large and the president will now appoint a prime minister. Pwede din po yun. But what I love about the parliamentary system is the unicameral setup and the fusing or putting together of the function of the executive and legislative para wala nang turuan ngayon yung Malacanang at saka yung Kongreso kung sinong dapat managot, sinong gagawa nito. Magkasama na dapat sila sa isang body who will implement the laws as they have crafted them. Okay? Okay. So John Lee says US started different nations before being federal. Oh, yes. But you see, the US kept the federal state. They did not break the independence of those states. Because, for example, the state of California, those are really large states. Alam nyo ba yung California is malaki pa sa Pilipinas yon? At yung resources nun, napakalaki. Washington State. So, naging nung after, kasi yung Amerika, may portions doon na hawak ng Spain, may portion doon na hawak ng British, may portion doon na hawak ng ganito. So napakaganda kung i-recognize mo yung independence ng mga nun, but they form under one federal state. Okay. Okay, ano ang problema sa parliamentary system during the term of the Marcos presidency? Okay. Ang naging problema nung parliamentary system nung time ni Marcos was, kasi hybrid yun eh. Si Marcos was the president or head of state. Tapos meron siyang si Cesar Virata who's supposed to be the prime minister. Ang problema nung time na yon was Marcos was talagang exerting so much authoritarian power na ang nangyari, hindi siya naging true parliamentary kasi, okay, kung meron ka kasing hiwalay na executive and legislative, meron kang checks and balances. Itong legislative, pwede niyang i-check yung presidente. Sa parliamentary system, hindi mo masyado maramdaman yung checks and balances between departments kasi nga pinagsama mo sila. Now, so ang nangyari doon, wala nang kumontra kay Marcos kasi hawak niya yung parliament na yon. Now, in a true parliamentary system, this is what leads me to my next point. Hindi pwedeng mag-work yung parliamentary system na yon kung hindi ka bumalik sa number 1. Yung parliamentary system na yon has to work within the context of a strong two-party system where you have good checks between the opposition and the government at any given time. So it's important for us to make sure that we put those things in place first before we move on to the next phases. I will explain to you how I see this happening when I move to number 5, but I'll respond to a few comments and questions. Do you think our Filipino culture is suitable for federal system? Thinking of political dynasty, mukhang maraming mag-aaway. John, we have been federal since ancient times. We have been federal since ancient times. The Southern Tagalog, the Northern Luzon tribes, the Southern Mindanao tribes, the ganito. Yung political dynasties is not going to be fought by a federal system. Kaya nga, ang solusyon dyan, ito, you don't jump into federal system if you don't put together a strong two-party system. Because if you federalize, tama yung fear ni John na baka manaig lang yung iyong mga feudal lords or yung iyong mga political dynasties. They will lord over the federal states. Kokontrolin nila yung federal states. That will not happen if you have strong party systems in those federal states. Kung sa kada state, meron kang, for example, nationalista or meron kang, for example, makabayan, makabansa. Let's just call it makabayan, makabansa parties. Kung itong dalawang partido na ito, malakas, pareho, funded pareho ng gobyerno, then meron kang check within the separate states. So this is how I see it. what should happen? Okay? Ang aking suggestion is what you call in order to achieve what I imagine is a better political system, is a 3-stage process. What we see now is a suggestion to immediately shift to a federal form. I believe that a proposal now to shift to a federal form is going to make the fears of our friend John Lee come true. If you immediately shift to a federal form, given this current setup, you are only bringing down the problems and spreading the problems nationwide without really correcting it. So the first step is really a shift to a 2-party system. You shift to a 2-party system first. Ensure that those two parties work, and those 2 parties begin to create accountability in all levels of our political structure. Meron kang 2 parties in Lanao, meron kang 2 parties in Davao para may kalaban naman yung mga Duterte doon. Meron kang 2 parties in Cebu para may kalaban naman itong mga Visayas. But remember, what happens is you are expanding. For example, the kuwas of Quirino will have to contend with the politicians in Cagayan. We'll have to contend with the political leaders in the Cordillera area. We'll have to contend with the politicians in La Union, Pangasinan area, in the Ilocos area, because the states are much bigger now. It's harder for just one political dynasty to control it. Lalo na if you have an established 2-party system. Kasi can you imagine if, let's say, sa Davao region, Region 11, let's say Southern Mindanao region. Kung pinagsama mo, for example, yung Davao, Jensan, South Cotabato, North Cotabato, Caraga, ang daming political leaders doon na malalakas. So napakahirap, for example, even if Duterte tries to be a dynasty there, I don't think it's going to be easy for Duterte to control the Butuanons or the Surigaonons. I don't think it's going to be easy for him to control the leaders in South Cotabato or in Jensan. It's going to be hard. It's going to be hard. Especially if you put in place a 2-party system that will make these families align under these 2 parties. And kung napondohan pa yan ng national government, then you will create that dynamic locally. So hindi ka tatalon sa federal until nabuo mo yung 2 malalakas na partido in all levels of government. Okay? Question. Is it possible to establish a federal government along ethnic lines, Kuya Mark? Okay. If you establish a federal government along ethnic lines, napakarami nating ethnicities in the Philippines. In the Bicol region alone, there's so many languages there. So it's hard to establish along ethnic lines because what you're looking for when you're trying to put together a state is also the viability of the state. Kailangan yung laki niya, yung nature niya, dapat magkasama sila na kaya nilang i-sustain at mabubuhay sila given their natural resources, given the number of people there, given the territory. Pero kailangan meron pa rin commonality yung culture nila, yung history nila. Kasi nga, they will become one state. So, ethnic background is one. Shared culture is one. But there's a consideration of the viability of that state. If that state is not viable because they're just ethnically united but their resources are just not enough, hindi rin po pwede yon. Okay? So, yes, John. Yes, that's all right. That's, of course, what we need to have. So, first step is put in a 2-party system because you cannot jump. So, if Duterte or the next president can craft a law or amend the Constitution. I'm not sure if you need to amend the Constitution for this to institutionalize this. If you can put that together and come up with a two-party system and bring it back to the pre-martial law system in the Philippines, then that would really, really help build meritocracy, balance of power, and competition and dynamic within the local governments as well as the national government positions. Once you have put that in place, dalawa ng partido, then you can move to the next step, which is to create the federal states. Once you create the federal states, then mag-align yung mga partido doon, then you can empower them to now talk with one another there in those respective federal states. Pwede kang federal siya, pero meron ka pa ring presidente, meron ka pa ring Senate and House of Representatives, pero yung governance ng states ay federal na siya. May federal ka na. So meron kang transition period between this presidential unitary into a more presidential federal. Pwede kang may presidente pa rin, meron kang federal. So meron kang second stage na kailangan. Once those federal states are in place, then you can move on to the last stage, I think, which is to, kasi pag once nag-federal ka na, masasanay na yung bansa. And that's why I suggest this next stage. Masasanay na yung bansa na hindi mo inaasa sa presidente ang pagpapatakbo ng Pilipinas. Masasanay ka na hindi mo inaasa sa Senado ang mag-imbestiga. Masasanay ka na hindi mo inaasa sa national government offices ang pagpapatakbo ng iyong gobyerno locally or yung iyong state. So may two-party system ka to ensure quality of leadership there and competition. Then you federalize it so that people will become more independent and will stand up on their own and try to put together their own systems, thereby weaning them out of national government. As soon as you get that weaning period, then you can now move into the parliamentary system where MPs led by a prime minister will now lead our country. So yun po yung aking three-stage process that I believe can work. If you immediately jump into federal without the two-party system, tsak yun. Sabi ng ating kaibigang si John Lee, the dynasties will just lord over those areas. Or baka mag-alyado sila na sila lang din yung gano. But with a two-party system, you can check that. If you jump into a parliamentary system without preparing the Philippines to somehow have greater autonomy and responsibility for running their own affairs, yung mindset na dependent ka pa rin sa national government, hindi yun ma-correct. So kailangan mo ng next step, which is federal, para to correct that mentality, that dependence mentality, and so they can run things on their own. Once they develop their own systems and greater independence, then you can shift to the final stage of a parliamentary government. So yun po ang aking tingin na makakakorek. Bakit maganda yung parliamentary system? Yung parliamentary system, meron kang sistema where the prime minister faces the leader of the opposition at yung prime minister, sa likod ng prime minister, nandun yung kanyang cabinet, heads ng kanyang various departments, at nasa likuran nila yung kanilang members of parliament na kaalyado nila dito sa government. Itong leader of the opposition, nandoon din yung kanyang mga kasama na may kinalaman or merong expertise doon sa departments na yon. At regular yung harapan nila on a question time. Merong regular harapan. I think araw-araw ngayon. When we observed it in Australia, talagang leader of the opposition, prime minister. Tumayo yung transportation minister. Bakit? Ang problema nila nun, wala nang manufacturing ng kotse sa Australia. Tumayo yung minister, nagsalita, Tumayo yung member of opposition, na yung member of opposition na yon was actually the former minister of transportation when they were the government. Kasi pag meron kang dalawa, magpapalitan eh. For example, ito, liberal ngayon, sila yung gobyerno, natalo sila ngayon, ang leader na ngayon yung nationalista na. So yung mga miyembro ng liberal dati na sila yung cabinet secretary, yun yung magko-correct sa current cabinet secretary. Can you imagine, for example, kung meron kang for example, Minister Mark Villar, magre-report doon about bill. Siyempre ngayon wala kang kokontra dun sa Senate or sa Kongreso. Nagtatanong lang. Imagine if you have a parliament where leader of opposition, Prime Minister, tatayo, Minister Villar, Mark Villar, magkukwento sila about bill. Yung member of the opposition is former DPWH Minister Singson. Tatayo si Singson, no, Mr. Secretary, you're wrong. We did that last year. We did that the previous year. We did this and it worked. It benefited us. It saved us money. Pwede namang subagot naman ngayon si Villar na, kayo yung gumawa nitong problema nito, kaya kami nagkakaproblema. So meaning yung accountability doon talagang harap-harapan. At ang accountability is system. Hindi yung tao lang na pwede hindi magsalita, pwede hindi sumagot, pwedeng hindi napapansinin yung opposition. Ang problema natin, hindi lamang na meron tayong weak leadership, meron tayong weak opposition because the system does not support the accountability structure. So I believe with this particular political system, mas magkakaroon ng quality leaders, magkakaroon ng integrity and accountability in all levels of government, at magkakaroon tayo ng checks and balances internal to those departments na kailangan natin. Internal to those bodies of government. Okay? So, this will be a big and long process. Yes, my friend Claire. So, anong solusyon natin? Paano natin mapapaayos yung Pilipinas? Mag-rally tayo, tanggalin natin yung presidente, kahit na sino ipalit mo dyan. That's why I posted it here. Kahit na anong presidente, if you have the current system in place, it's not going to work. Meron tayong systems in our past at merong systems at meron kang mga polisiya na inobserve na ng ibang mga bansa that's working very well for them na dapat natin itong kopyahin. Japan is a parliament. Australia is parliamentary. Singapore is a parliament. Malaysia. The US, hindi siya parliamentary, it's federal, and it has a two-party system. So, ibig sabihin, hindi nag-jump dun sa pangatlo na stage na suggestion ko, yung Amerika, dahil ayaw nilang gayahin yung Britain, yung England. Pero, nandun pa rin yung checks. So, yung sa atin, parang hybrid America, but it's not working because it doesn't have the safety nets. Tinanggal natin yung mga safety nets that actually worked before martial law. Nasira lang during martial law, so dapat lang natin ibalik ang mga ito. Okay? So, that's it for today. Did you learn something? Did you enjoy the discussion? I'll write this into an essay soon so we could pass this around and help educate our fellow Filipinos. Let's move on to the last portion of our show today. Balita po, the past how many days, medyo nag-trending yung decision ng Shell Philippines to transform their refinery into an international depot, a world-class hub. So, malungkot yung iba because we are no longer going to refine oil. At least Shell is not going to refine oil there in Batangas because they feel it's not financially sustainable anymore. So sa tingin nila mas magandang mag-import na lang ng oil dahil mas-save nila yung negosyo at mas masustain nila yung operations dito sa Philippines. So anong gusto kong dalawang sabihin? Number one, change is never easy and I hope that the professionals working at Shell can find jobs. Kasi yung mga chemists doon, yung mga chemical engineer, mechanical engineers working in the refinery, I hope they can find jobs in the Philippines, or if not in the Philippines, in other countries in these difficult times. Ang pangalawang gusto kong sabihin, I believe it's not the end of the road for refineries in the Philippines. I believe the Philippines will grow into a large economy in the future that will require our own refinery here. And we might discover oil within the oceans of the Philippines, and we will refine the oil in the Philippines, and I believe that will happen. So this might be a sad day for our friends at Shell, but I believe it's not the end of the road. I believe there are better days ahead. They will find jobs because they're excellent professionals, and I believe the Philippines will grow into a great nation in the future, and we will refine oil because we will discover oil in our country if God wills it. If God wills it. So, minimal po ang refining ng Shell versus the refinery of Petron. That's correct, Mel. So, meron pa ring refinery yung Petron. So, that's our show for today. I hope you enjoyed. I need to break, not earlier because it's already 9:03. I have another talk at 10:30 today. It's going to be a talk actually for some of the leaders of Shell Philippines to help them manage this change. I'm trying to find hope and joy in my heart and inspiration in my heart so that as I speak to our friends at Shell today at 10:30, I can help make them look to the future with confidence and hope that it's not the end. It's just the beginning of greater days for the leaders and the professionals of Shell Philippines. Thanks very much, everyone, for joining me today. See you all again on Monday. I might have a special guest on Monday. I will announce it over the next few days. God bless. Stay safe always. And let's pray that our leaders decide to put up a system, not just personalities, but a system that will create a better government, that will create quality governance, meritocracy, excellence in our public service for the benefit of Filipinos here and all over the world. God bless. Stay safe.